Attention football fans! Liverpool is ready with a bid for another top striker worth €100 million. David Ornstein shares an update on Mark Guehi that could concern Liverpool supporters. A final deadline prediction for Alexander Isak to join Liverpool has been made while Newcastle continues to make them sweat. Hello, football fans! Welcome to your channel for news on the world's biggest club. Rodrigo, the 24-year-old Brazilian forward, has recently been deemed surplus to requirements at Real Madrid amid intense competition for places. Valued by the Spanish club at around €100 million, the player has a contract running until 2029, and his departure would not be merely financial, but also strategic for the two-time Champions League winners. Meanwhile, Liverpool is moving aggressively in the transfer market. The club's spending this window has already surpassed £290 million under the supervision of sporting director Richard Hughes, reflecting an ambitious squad reinforcement campaign. Among the recent signings is Florian Wirtz, acquired for a UK record fee that could reach £116 million. The club is also showing interest in Newcastle's Alexander Isak, valued at around £150 million, demonstrating that the Reds are willing to invest heavily in elite attackers. Given this context, there are indications that Liverpool could consider Rodrigo as an alternative if the Isak deal does not materialize. Manchester City and Arsenal are also keeping an eye on the Brazilian, reducing Rodrigo's potential destinations and intensifying competition among clubs. Tottenham, previously linked to the forward, seems to have shifted its focus to Savinho from Manchester City. Recent reports indicate that Pep Guardiola has already spoken with Rodrigo about a potential transfer to the Etihad, suggesting that City maintains active interest in the player. Liverpool, in turn, has a long-standing admiration for Rodrigo. The Reds first attempted to sign him in 2019 before he moved from Santos to Real Madrid. Recent reports state that both Arne Slot's team and the Gunners continue to monitor the Brazilian closely, highlighting that the competition for his signature remains fierce. However, Liverpool fans should not expect Rodrigo and Isak to arrive at Anfield simultaneously this summer. The club's priority is to finalize the signing of Isak in the coming days. The Newcastle forward is currently out of the squad, having not played in the season opener against Aston Villa. If Liverpool cannot meet Newcastle's demands for Isak, Rodrigo presents a high-level alternative capable of addressing the team's offensive needs. In this way, the Brazilian remains a strategic plan B, while the club focuses on securing its primary target.
Liverpool continues to pursue reinforcements ahead of the transfer window closing, with special attention to defense and attack. In defense, Mark Guehi, captain of Crystal Palace, is the Reds' main target. The 25-year-old Englishman has 1 year left on his contract and does not intend to renew. Palace is reportedly willing to negotiate this summer, but their £40 million valuation has been an obstacle, with Liverpool currently only willing to offer around £30 million. Rumors suggest Palace might reluctantly accept £35 million, still above the Reds' offer. The need for an experienced center-back became clear after the team's performances in preseason and the opening match against Bournemouth, where Liverpool appeared vulnerable to counterattacks, something rare last season under Arne Slot. The club sees Guehi as a market opportunity that cannot be missed, considering him a strategic reinforcement capable of pressuring and competing with Ibrahima Konate, without altering their philosophy of developing young talent as they did with Giovanni Leone. However, Liverpool has not yet shown willingness to meet Palace's asking price, which worries supporters. According to David Ornstein, if Guehi leaves Palace, his preferred destination is Liverpool, reinforcing the Reds' interest. In attack, Alexander Isak remains the top priority. With the departures of Darwin Núñez, Luis Diaz, and the loss of Diogo Jota, the squad is limited, making the signing of the Swedish forward even more urgent. Liverpool has already spent nearly £300 million this summer, but is willing to invest further to secure Isak, who also wants the move to Anfield. However, negotiations face delays as Newcastle seeks replacements. Despite the shortage in attack, sources close to the club indicate that Liverpool does not intend to sign another forward besides Isak this summer. Players like Federico Chiesa and Rio Ngumoha would be the backup options, but relying too heavily on an injury-prone winger and a 16-year-old is risky, especially given the Premier League title defense. David Lynch from the Anfield Index stated that no additional offensive signings are expected beyond Isak, suggesting the club trusts the current squad with Ngumoha, Frimpong, and Wirtz as frontline options. Thus, the Reds still need at least 3 signings, an experienced center back, which would be Guehi, and 2 offensive reinforcements to deepen the squad. Combining a strengthened defense with a competitive attack is seen as essential to handle the intense schedule of the Premier League and increase the chances of a successful title defense. The refusal to pay slightly more for Guehi leaves fans concerned about the club's conviction regarding his signing. In summary, Liverpool continues to work with strategic focus, reinforcing the defense with an elite player like Guehi and securing the attack with Alexander Isak, while plans to further complete the squad depend on ongoing negotiations and the availability of resources to meet objectives before the transfer window closes.
Swedish forward Alexander Isak wants to leave Newcastle this summer and was left out of the draw against Aston Villa. Liverpool is the favorite to sign him, but had a £110 million offer rejected and is unlikely to make a second bid unless Newcastle signals openness. Jermaine Pennant believes it may be too late for Isak to win back the fans, and even if he stays, he would not be the same player who scored 23 goals last season. Quote, "I just can't imagine them keeping Isak now," Pennant said on TalkSport's Inside Liverpool. "There has been so much noise, so much toxicity around the issue. He is restless at the club. Even if they kept him, we wouldn't have the same player. These are facts. So 70-80% Isak, we wouldn't have the same player. He doesn't want to be there. He isn't committed. You can't force someone to be somewhere or do anything. He has to do it on his own." End quote. Pennant also believes Liverpool will eventually sign Isak, but they will have to sweat until the last minute. The Newcastle star has refused to play under Eddie Howe and was not selected for the goalless draw against Aston Villa due to Liverpool's interest. The 25-year-old is under contract with Newcastle until June 2028, after signing a 6-year deal with Real Sociedad for £63 million in 2022. Bjornsson told Football Insider that Isak has no leverage to force his exit, and any legal attempt could complicate his contract situation. He also clarified that there is no international involvement, as this is a domestic matter between Newcastle and Liverpool, governed by the Premier League and FA rules. Additionally, Paul Robinson commented that Newcastle is unlikely to sell Kieran Trippier, despite Monaco's interest, because the club wants to maintain a strong and united squad before the Champions League, and replacing the 34-year-old fullback would be challenging. Luke Edwards of The Telegraph commented on August 19, 2025, quote, "Newcastle will not sign players they do not want just to replace Alexander Isak. This has been consistent all summer. If they had signed Ekitike or Sesko and Liverpool offered £150 million, perhaps Isak could have left. But signing a striker just for the sake of it now would do more harm than good. It's better to keep Isak and reintegrate him, however difficult. That has been the plan all summer." End quote. A transfer of Isak this window now seems almost impossible. Newcastle is focused on finding a replacement for Callum Wilson. When Isak is reintegrated for the 2025-26 season, it will not be easy, but it is not impossible. He needs to train regularly with the squad and play consistently, or his career could be heavily impacted, making participation in the 2026 World Cup more difficult if Sweden qualifies. Based on current information, Alexander Isak is not expected to leave Newcastle this summer, and life at the club will continue as usual. But fans, what do you think of the situation? Thank you very much for watching until now. See you next time.